Hello Year 4, and today's learning journey lesson on Monday the 1st of February is about tooth decay and setting up an inquiry. Okay, so last Friday you looked at the teeth and the different functions that they provide, and they are a very important part of the digestive system. So let's have a look at what we're going to do today. So our aim is asking scientific questions and choosing a scientific inquiry to answer them, creating an inquiry or test, and we are going to be successful at this, we are going to generate some questions, making sure that they're relevant scientific questions, suggest an appropriate type of scientific inquiry to answer our question, set it up a simple inquiry, and we're going to make predictions, and we're also going to give instructions on how to perform the test. So let's have a look at this in more detail. So questions. Why do scientists ask questions? Why do they carry out inquiries and tests? So just have a think to yourself. Why do scientists ask questions, and why do they carry out inquiries and tests? Okay, so you might have thought, well, to find things out, to find the effect of certain things on other things. Like, for example, scientists have been working very hard to come up with a vaccine against COVID, so they'd have been asking lots of questions. They'd have obviously had to carry out lots of inquiries and tests to make it safe. So all sorts of things. Okay, right, let's have a look at what we would class as a scientific question or not a scientific question. Okay, if they can be tested. So I've got a chart here. You don't have to do anything. You can we'll just think to ourselves. So scientific questions, non-scientific questions. So is it something that can be tested, that can be investigated? So let's have a think. Does eating fruit keep you healthy? Okay, we might already have an idea of the answer of that, but is it something that we would test, and is it scientific? Yes, I think we would. So that would go in scientific questions. What time is dinner? Now, is that something that we can test? No, that's just asking a question, isn't it? So that would be a non-scientific question. Can you open the lid? Isn't that asking somebody to do something? So probably a non-scientific question. Does sound travel through walls? That's something that could be investigated scientifically, isn't it? So I would put that in scientific questions. How much sleep do rabbits need? I'd imagine that's something that you could investigate, so I would put that in scientific questions. Does water always boil when heated? I would think you could do a scientific inquiry around that, so I'd put it in scientific questions. When should I do my homework? Well, that's up to you really, isn't it? So I would say a non-scientific question. Do plants need soil to grow? I think that's one that could be investigated as well. Okay, so we've got an idea. So a scientific question is something that you could set up an inquiry about to try and test things to see if it's yes or no. So does eating fruit keep you healthy? We could find out by carrying out an inquiry. How much sleep do rabbits need? That's something you could possibly test. But things like, when should I do my homework? Well, that's a personal choice, isn't it? That's not really an investigation. Okay, so I keep mentioning inquiries, scientific inquiries. So what types are they? Can you think of any inquiries or tests that you've done in the past in any of your other classes? How would you know what type of inquiry to choose? Okay, we're going to look at some examples of some questions and the kind of inquiries we could use to answer them. So let's have a look. Right, a practical inquiry is a very simple thing, is when you want to just observe what happens. So if I want to answer the question, what effect does water have on chewing gum? I'm just putting a note there that that is not a very specific question, but a simple practical inquiry would involve placing the chewing gum in some form of liquid, for example water, and just observing what happens to the chewing gum. Does it change colour? Does it grow? Does it shrink? Does it change shape, either immediately or over time? What would be, sensible time intervals? So how often would you look at it? Would you look every hour? Would you look every day? So in that, if you were to carry out that inquiry, so the question, what effect does water have on chewing gum? You would need obviously some chewing gum, a container, some water, and a timer or clock, a way to measure the time. And you would have to record what you observe in a chart. Okay, so that's a very simple, practical inquiry. Now there's also variables. So in a practical inquiry, we are interested in the observation and what happens, as we are not sure what the results will be. When we conduct a comparative or fair test, we want to test the particular effect of something. Okay, so a question, instead of what happens to chewing gum when you put it in water, you might put, do different liquids affect the colour of chewing gum? So this is a more specific question and it involves a few things. So this would be a comparative or a fair test. Okay, so the variable you are testing is the thing that you change every time to carry out the test. Okay, so variable, you change it. In a comparative and fair test, we will look at this. It will be the liquids. So I want to change the liquids to see if different types of liquids have a particular effect on the chewing gum. Okay, so that would be our variable if we were looking at how different liquids affect the chewing gum. So you can see we've got water, apple juice, orange juice, Coke, and milk. So this is a comparative fair test. Now when you're carrying out the fair test, you need to change only one thing. All the other variables, so all the other things, need to be kept the same so they don't affect your results, because you want to test, you want to see if that liquid the different liquids have an effect. So you wouldn't change anything else. So I'm going to go more into that in a moment. So in my test, I wanted to know if the liquids change the colour of the chewing gum. But if I was to use different containers to put the liquid in, or put the containers in different parts of the room, then it would be the material of the containers. It could be the material of the containers that's having an effect, or where it is placed in the room, so not the liquid. So these differences would mean I was testing lots of types of variables, but I just want to test one type, the liquid. Okay, so you've got to be careful when we're setting up a comparable fair testing one. So in my test then, so if I was answering that question, where were we? So do different liquids affect the colour of chewing gum? So I'm changing the liquids. That's my variable. The liquids are changing. So the things that I would want to keep the same are the containers, because I don't want those, I'm not comparing those. I don't want to see the effect of the containers. Where I put the containers, they'd have to all be put in the same place. The amount of liquid, even though I'm testing different liquids, I still need to put the same amount in each container. Also, I will need to make sure the time between each observation. So when I check on the chewing gum in each of the liquids, I want to do it at the same time for each one of them, and the same time in between. Obviously the type of chewing gum needs to be the same, and the amount of chewing gum that I'm using needs to be the same. Okay, so that would look, so do different liquids affect the colour of chewing gum? So I'd set it up like this. So liquids, that I'm changing, my variable, will be milk, water, orange juice. Colour, containers, where I place the containers, the amount of liquid in each container, the time, type of chewing gum, and the amount of gum in each container. And I'm going to record at regular intervals of time, and then I'm going to compare the results from the different liquids, and I'm going to have a look for any patterns. So I would have a chart similar to this. Okay, so I'd put what liquid there, and then I would look at the chewing gum after 1 day and see if I can spot anything different, what is different, what has changed, if anything has changed, and then again I'll do the same after 2 days. Okay, now you're probably thinking, right, so we are going to carry out a comparative fair test on something to do with our teeth. Okay, so first of all, let's have a closer look at what a tooth looks like. So this is showing tooth decay. What is tooth decay? What causes tooth decay? And how do you know? Okay, so here is the inside of an infected tooth with decay. So you can see the outside here, the enamel of the tooth, that's the hard part of your tooth. And then inside here, it's gone all black, and that's saying it's decay. And you've got the inside of your tooth, the pulp, is showing that it's infected. And then you've got an abscess at the bottom there. I would imagine that this situation would be very painful, because inside the pulp you've got all these nerves. So that would cause you quite a few problems. So, tooth decay, not very nice to have. You'd have to go to the dentist, you'd probably need a filling. Obviously something would have to be done about that painful abscess. That would cause a lot of pain there. So really, we need to look after our teeth, don't we? Just like we are going to be planning a energy yielding diet plan, we need to make sure that we're putting the right drinks in and things that are good for our teeth, because our teeth are a major part of our digestive system. And if they go wrong, it's not very good. So let's have a look. So we're going to create a scientific question about tooth decay. Now we're thinking about the sort of things that we drink. So how do you think, what could we test? What could we test? So we're thinking about the different types of drink that we enjoy, and we want to see what effect they might have on our teeth. So we're thinking along the lines, are they good for our teeth? Are they bad for our teeth? You know, think of some drinks contain a lot of sugar, don't they? Some don't contain any sugar. Which ones would be better for our teeth? So we're going to have a think about that and what we would need. So I'm going to give you some ideas. Right, this is what our test sheet is going to look like. Okay, fair and comparative test. So you're going to have one of these in your class portfolio, and we are going to test different drinks. Okay, so here we've got Coke, we've got milk, we've got orange juice, and we've got water. So we're going to do something with these different liquids. That's going to be our variable, okay, because we want to test the effect that they have on our teeth. Okay, so we're going to have to keep certain things the same, aren't we? So what will we keep the same? Okay, obviously our containers, and you might be thinking, what's this? Okay, now this is an egg. Now the reason we're going to use an egg in this experiment is because the shell of an egg kind of acts like teeth. It's made of a similar material. The enamel on our teeth is quite similar to an egg. Okay, so we're not going to pull out some teeth. I'm not going to pull out a load of my teeth and do an experiment on them. We're going to use a hard-boiled egg. Okay, and I'm going to set that up in tomorrow's Zoom lesson so we can all have a look at what's going on. And then obviously something to measure out. So we've got our containers, we've got a measuring jug, because we're going to measure the liquids, because obviously they have to stay the same amount of liquid. We're going to have the same size eggs, so I'm going to boil some eggs over the weekend and bring those in to do our experiment. We've got Coke, we're going to have milk, we're going to have orange juice, and we're going to have water. Okay, so what could our question be? What could our question be? What could we write in there? So we could have something like, so hopefully you're thinking as well. What effect does different drinks have on teeth? Oh, flipped forward, didn't mean to do that. What was the chewing gum one? Okay, do different liquids affect the colour of chewing gum? So we could have, do different liquids affect our teeth? Or how do different drinks affect our teeth? Okay, something like that. So when you come to write that up, you want something like that. And we will go over this tomorrow in the Zoom, so don't worry. Okay, and then a prediction. So this is where you need to think, what do you think is going to happen to the eggs? Which one of these drinks do you think is going to have a bad effect on our teeth, a good effect on our teeth, which is not going to affect it at all? So have a think, okay? Think about what Coke contains, think about what milk contains, orange juice and water. So your prediction here is maybe something like, I think the water is going to be the worst one for our teeth because it doesn't taste very nice. That's just a rubbish prediction, but just an idea. Okay, so our question, how do different liquids affect our teeth? I think the water will be the worst for our teeth and it will make all the shell go black, like tooth decay. Okay, something like that. Okay, what are we going to measure? All right, this is where we will go more into that in tomorrow's Zoom, okay, because we're going to have to make a chart to record our observations. So we're going to measure, we're going to observe the eggshells, aren't we? Okay, so we'll put something about that there. And what are we going to do? So this is all our equipment. Our variable is the liquid. Everything else is staying the same. Okay, so again, have a think, try and write a few things in there, but we will go over it tomorrow. So number one, the first thing, we will measure out the different liquids. We will pour them into the same containers. We will place an egg in each liquid. Okay, we will then watch what happens, and we'll have to look at it after every day, won't we? Okay, so we've looked at the different types of tests. We're doing a fair and comparative test. That means we only change one thing. Our variable is the liquid. Okay, everything else we are keeping the same because we want to see what effect the different liquids have. So we keep everything else the same. Our question, how do different liquids affect our teeth? Predict which one you think will have more of an effect or less of an effect. And then what we're going to measure. So it's more of an observation. We're going to see how the liquid affects the different the shells of the eggs. And then what will we keep the same? And then write a brief method. Okay, so this sheet will be in your portfolio for you to fill in, and we will go through it in tomorrow's Zoom as well and set up the experiment. Okay, a lot of information to take in there, but this is the main thing that we are going to be concentrating on, a fair and comparative test. Okay, year 4? Right. I shall see you tomorrow in the Zoom. Goodbye for now.